Hello everyone! So here we are. The Electroneum launch happened and we all have our wallets with their coins in them and we're happy. Well, I'm aware that some people didn't get their wallets, but come on. We should understand this. I think it was posted on the Electroneum Facebook what huge numbers were going through the first day. In fact, the trade volume in Cryptopia was 2,000 bitcoins and I was watching, which is about $30 million. It's lots of money. This should tell you how much pressure there was on the Electroneum website, so we should be understanding. This is, however, not what I wanted to talk about in this video. I'm okay with all that, and as a technical person, I understand the difficulties in making such projects work for the masses. I mean, when we talk about like 100,000 people accessing the website at the same time, it's not simple. Even Amazon had problems running their website at times on Christmas. So this is not the issue. We're talking today about something else. In my previous video about Electroneum, I explained why the mobile miner is a suicidal project for Electroneum. They've stopped it, and I like to think that I had something to do with stopping it. After all, we all want to make the world a better place, right? If you haven't watched that video, please do so before watching this one. You'll get a better perspective on Electroneum and some of the things I'll be talking about in this video. So after having discussed that huge problem, today I'm going to be discussing something different, which is not that critical, which is the stupid design of the web wallet and the mobile wallets. And I'm not talking about the front-end design, I'm talking about the back-end design, the way these wallets work. And I think they don't make any sense, they're useless for any practical payment system. Even if we assume that they work perfectly, with no hiccups and with no issues whatsoever. I have seen you all guys overall on Facebook, on Reddit, Twitter, Discord, and everywhere. You're wishing to buy your coffee with Electroneum. I've seen that, but I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen. And today in this video I'll be discussing why that's the case. Again, I'm upset for the level of incompetence of the Electroneum team to predict such problems. I really have to say that these wallets they made are absolutely useless, and in this video I'll be explaining why. First, let's discuss how the Electroneum company works, where their project has two parts. One, the first part is the Electroneum blockchain, which has been running since November 2017, and which is the place where the miners do their mining to maintain the blockchain, where the blockchain is the ledger of all transactions that happened on the Electroneum network. Miners basically collect transactions that are submitted by users and put them in a block, which is the smallest part of the blockchain, a block. And they solve a computationally intensive cryptographic problem where they have to guess a number. If they successfully guess this number, if a miner successfully guesses this number, he is rewarded with some Electroneum. And they add their block to the blockchain, and that's how your transactions happen. Now, this part of Electroneum is not controlled by any central entity, not even the Electroneum company. The Electroneum company deployed this, and now they're just users of this blockchain, just like everyone else, just like us. This is the decentralized part of Electroneum. There's no center entity in this part of the project. And just to understand further how the wallet works, in order to have money on the blockchain, you basically have a private key, which is for you only. You're not supposed to give it to anyone. And there's the public key, which is associated with the private key, and which is a public address where people send you money. Those keys are basically your wallet that hold your coins. Anyone, and I repeat, anyone who has your private key, he has your money. So that's all it takes. That's why you should protect your private key very seriously. Now, when you submit a transaction for the miners to process, you basically sign this transaction with your private key. Don't bother about the technical meaning of signing, just know that it's a cryptographic way to prove that you know the key without giving them the key. This is how transactions work for Bitcoin and almost every other cryptocurrency, including Electroneum. The second part of the Electroneum project is the Electroneum company's website, which is under their full control. So, it's a website which has your wallet. The Electroneum team took the responsibility of creating web wallets where they store a private key for you and give you access to control the funds under that private key when you log in with your credentials. In other words, you don't need this service ultimately. You can do this yourself with their client that's available for free, and you can download it from their GitHub. This service that they provide simply makes everything easy for you, assuming you blindly trust that everything will work fine with them. Even Richard Ells, the CEO of Electroneum, doesn't recommend putting everything on the web wallet, and he recommended multiple times that people use paper wallets. It's beyond the point of this video, but just imagine if the government seizes their computers and coins, then you don't have your coins anymore. If you want to put money there on the web wallet, just put a small amount that you can afford to lose, like your pocket money. Okay, now we're done with explaining the parts of the Electroneum project, which include the blockchain, which is decentralized, and the Electroneum website, which is centralized. Let's discuss now the pros and cons of centralized versus decentralized systems to get to the point that explains why these wallets are absolutely useless for any practical purpose in making them a payment system that you can use to buy your coffee. The pros of centralized systems are that they're fast, easy to access, and easy to maintain and upgrade because the headquarters are in control. This is like when the Electroneum team decided to shut down everything because there's a security threat. You can rig the system around the whole world to shut down with the push of a button because the company is in full control. On the other hand, the cons of centralized systems are that it's mostly a single point to be attacked, which is dangerous, and which is why Electroneum hired HackerOne to ensure that no one attacks their centralized servers. Because if someone does and succeeds, he has everything, including your coins, or in more technical terms, your wallet's private keys, which, like we discussed, is everything anyone needs to take your money from the blockchain. Now let's talk about decentralized systems. The pros of a decentralized system is that it's very secure. Because if you want to attack the Bitcoin blockchain, for example, so that you can make money for yourself with a fake transaction, you're going to have to attack all the nodes all over the world simultaneously. This is crazy and practically impossible. On the other hand, what are the cons of a distributed system or a decentralized system? Basically, the cons are it's very slow. That's the primary problem that all cryptocurrencies are trying to solve. I discussed this in the video labeled Dash versus Monero is Dash flawed, where I explained that some cryptocurrencies have created some centralization to solve this problem, like Ripple and Dash. But Electroneum, or basically Monero, which is the cryptocurrency that Electroneum used as a base, is slow. In order for your transaction to be written on the blockchain, you need at least 1 to 2 minutes because it takes about 1 to 2 minutes to create a single block by a miner. Then, every block that comes after your block is considered a confirmation for your transaction. For example, Cryptopia, the exchange, needs 20 confirmations before it calls your deposit final. If you're wondering why this is necessary, it's because there's a chance that the block that has your transaction gets overwritten by another block from a miner who did more blocks than the miner who did your block. Which in other words means that your transaction can then be spent twice if you have a malicious plan. This is basically what a 51% attack can do, if you ever heard of this term. This is too much detail in the core design of blockchains that we don't have to get into. The message out of this is that blockchains are slow by design. At least, this is the case with the current technology. If all this confuses you, you can listen to it again later to understand more if you wish. But the important part is here. What do the web wallets and the mobile wallets do when you submit a transaction in them? All they do is that they submit a transaction to the blockchain. That's all. There's nothing special being done there. The moral of this long story is that there is no way in the universe you're going to be able to make transactions that are faster than 2 minutes. In the best of best case. I'm assuming here the merchant who's going to sell you your coffee is nice enough to accept 1 block only with your transaction written on it. Meaning, if you imagine you're in line to get your coffee, you're going to have to wait like 2 minutes at least until your transaction is confirmed, and realistically 10 minutes. This is the huge achievement of the Electroneum web wallets and mobile wallets. So, if you're expecting to pay your coffee with Electroneum, I'm sorry to break it to you, it's not going to happen. And apart from all this mess, you have to know that Electroneum transactions are sometimes very expensive. They can reach over half an Electroneum in price, as you can see in the screenshot in front of you. What you see on this screenshot is a transaction of my Electroneum funds using the Electroneum command line wallet that I talked about before. I'm sending here some Electroneum. Check the highlighted part and see for yourself how much the transaction fee is. Even on the Electroneum web wallet, they say that transactions can have fees of about 0.2 ETN. This is not a complaint because I'm stingy or something, but just to illustrate that paying for your coffee with Electroneum isn't that cheap either, assuming Electroneum is going to reach $1 in price. So let's get on the constructive side. Is this hopeless? Can Electroneum never be used for such microtransactions as they promised in their white paper? The answer is no, there is hope, and it can be used for microtransactions. The solution is basically to create an internal transaction system in the Electroneum website. In other words, just like exchanges, when you go to Cryptopia and you do a transaction to sell your Electroneum for some Bitcoin, these transactions don't go to the blockchain. They're all processed within Cryptopia's internal system. It is super fast because it's centralized. It's fast because all the transactions are handled within the Cryptopia servers. Nothing goes to the blockchain. And this is what the Electroneum team should have done. If they had done that, not only that transactions can become super fast, but also they can charge like a fee of 0.01 ETN, which is like 1 ETN cent, and they can have a revenue stream that can sustain their business. That will be a brilliant solution to make people pay for their coffee with Electroneum. But what the Electroneum team has done now is overly stupid. And if you're wondering why I'm calling it stupid, it's not because I want to insult them. It's because it's really stupid from a technical point of view. They managed successfully to create a centralized system that has the biggest problem in decentralized systems. Well, I have to say to the Electroneum team, congratulations for this achievement. And just for completeness, I'd like you to know that Cryptopia and Coinbase have such services. You can send coins from one user to another using their email address and instantly. It's nothing novel or genius. No idea why the Electroneum team didn't do that. It's quite stupid to store the private keys of all these users instead of managing their funds internally. I don't see any benefit of that. Seriously, guys, if you know why they did this, if you know what's the benefit of storing the private keys of 200,000 users, please tell me. How is this better than an internal transaction system in their servers? The way I see how the Electroneum web wallet or mobile wallet should work is to support both ways of transactions. Transactions from the Electroneum central system to the blockchain that can take as long as the blockchain requires, and internal transactions that take no time and are confirmed in seconds, so that we can use Electroneum as a fast payment system. Finally, I urge you again to take this video to the Electroneum team to get the point and see how they can make their system really useful for payments. Now that would make Electroneum become adopted by the masses. The current web wallets and mobile wallets are just an impractical joke. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and click on that bell to receive notifications on the latest from my channel. If you don't like this video, please tell me in the comments how the current Electroneum system can be used for practical payments in its current state. Or maybe it's not important at all and I'm giving this more weight than it deserves. I'm interested in your opinion.